This gal means well, but she's stupid. Just to put it bluntly. She shops around propaganda. She doesn't think about what she leaves on the internet, and this is why she has fucking traction. Just to be clear. I want to make sure this is copied. 1 second. And I probably should bookmark this if I haven't already, which I haven't. I was going to put this in the longer video, but because it has to do with our health, it's censored on the DARPA internet, which speaks to what I'm talking about. Because patently fascist measures are in place. Fascists, make no mistake of this, you can call them communists, socialists, Democrats, Republicans, whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Not all of that shit has to do with fascism. And if you don't understand that, you're a fucking stupid fuck. Fucking fuck! And it's true. Here, let's do this first, and then we'll do that. Because maybe you won't sit through this otherwise. Maybe you'll skip ahead. Oh my god, it's long. I'll read it too, because most people are illiterate these days. And let's see how well I read it. You can have a laugh in advance. 1 second. Maybe we'll do this first. Courage. Agreed is what I said. I'm agreeing with part of it. Anything that is funded by the Rockefeller Trust can't be trusted. Some examples include the alphabet community, feminism, Black Lives Matter, Western medicine, indoctrination camps people call public school, or schools, the Anonymous Campaign, the Occupy movement, the Disclosure Project. I'm talking about bullshit aliens that don't exist, couldn't exist, won't exist. Ridiculous shit people repeat. I grew up in New Mexico where we have Roswell. There's a lot of stupid people who live in Roswell, and that is their bread and butter. Doesn't reflect reality, but they are shopping around propaganda, is my point. Okay, so I said Disclosure Project, which was originally funded by Hillary Clinton. I have hair in my eye. Among other contributors. Today, it's called the Gaia Project, as well. In other words, because... Wait, I'm jumping all over the fucking place. Because nobody stopped it dead in its tracks, and it is splintered off into another branch. Horrible run-on sentence. I probably shouldn't mention shit like that, but it is. I mean, this is poorly worded. I don't expect it to wow you. It's better than, in my opinion, what most people leave on the fucking internet. What most people know. But because I challenge people, I might have some people whine at me about it. I'm well aware of it. It's well known. And if I really wanted to polish this up, I could and I would, but why bother? Why bother? This is still above most people's pay grade, and I'm teaching you something if you've never heard this before. Just in case you're a wet fart. That does not apply to the precious few of you, and there's a handful of you out there who are taking notes, who give a shit and keep up with what I've been up to. And I don't like having to say that, but hopefully you guys know that, for what it's worth. So, Gaia Project, blah, 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 blah. I said because nobody stopped it dead in its tracks, and it splintered off into another branch. This is how our masters work. This is how the Bavarian Illuminati works. What it turned into. It's not the Illuminati. But that's what you're spoon-fed. Because you and I are spoon-fed shit. And most people chew it up, swallow it, digest it, shit it back out, and try to show somebody else. Horrible analogy. But I also said horrible run-on sentence. I'm well aware of it. Just the same, the presenters are, also going to tell you that you live on a fairy tale rock floating through Photoshop. The heliocentric physics-defying globe theory is one of two outlines in place to promote the Hegelian dialectic. I'm talking about conquer and divide. Usually it doesn't spell conquer right, so I had to pause. When I talk at my phone, talk to Google, mind you. Talk to the AI, the fucking horse shit that shouldn't exist. I said blue versus red. Things that gullible people buy into instead of looking into. The original outline was the flat earth. The flat earth came first, in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Our masters cooked this bullshit up, spoon-fed it to a bunch of peasants, and they repeated it. Then they came up with an opposing outline. Then what did we get recently? The re-emergence of the flat earth outline. They created a fucking sandwich, and most people had lunch. I shit you not. I shit you not. And this goes back to a campaign called the campaign, what was it? Learning Against Learning is what it was called. And I doubt you'll find that if you try looking for it. I really do. It's something I ran across a very long time ago. Either way. And assume what you will. If you're curious what that entailed, our masters, and this has to do with the Catholic Church and other shit like that, all of which was being orchestrated by the Crown, mind you, having to do with the UK, because these things date back to the 16th century, and the outline of the trilateral city-states still fucking applies. No, really. So they sent their self-appointed astronomers to every town, village, province, fill in the fucking blank, and they re-educated people. They taught them to repeat the bullshit. It's also worth looking up if you haven't done this, and these are all my sidebars. You should look into the time frames when Spaniards and other bastards like that, and keep in mind, the black nobility has an intimate connection with the crown. The black nobility is part of... There are 7 families, crudely speaking. The House of Liechtenstein and the House of Orange are 2 of them. And these are some of the families that recoup our unconstitutional taxes here in the States. And the States are, quite literally, crown colonies as a whole. The District of Columbia, respectively. But the Spaniards and other people of this ilk, including, but not limited to, British bullshit, infiltrated other fucking groups of people and not only re-educated them, and I know that's not a word. I'm dumbing things down because that might appeal to people who don't spell their words, use emojis, and aren't thinking for themselves and or speak in one of the many versions of Ebonics, if I'm not mistaken, these days. Maybe. Re-educated. They tore down sites of antiquity. They corrupted what reflected reality. And based on my research, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, sure shit seems like I'm right, but where we are and what this is, some of it used to be left in stone. There were edifices. There were monuments. There's a throne that I think of often that was defaced. Purposely defaced. And it's because these things once contained answers to where we are and what this is. And these things were destroyed, they were spirited away, and they were hidden from the masses. One of these things that I'm thinking of, there's a fellow who trucked all over the fucking place. This is many, many, many lifetimes ago. And the only thing that remains is his verbal account in print, mind you. He left it in ink. And it's him detailing one of these sites. This is one of many accounts that corroborate what he saw. Another one has to do with the people who actually lived there. He was a visitor. He was a stranger. And it details this site that was destroyed. It was intentionally destroyed, if I'm not mistaken, by Spaniards. And if you ever find this account, I'm not going to tell you how to find it. The point is for you to be invested. The point's for you to be involved. If you don't take this journey and you're not willing to look up this shit, what the fuck good are you? You're not. You're not worth a goddamn... not worth shit. And most people today expect to be spoon-fed everything. Well, the burden of proof is on you, because I'll repeat anything. I'll even repeat the burden of proof. Think for me, because I can't. Why the fuck do you think things are bad? Why the fuck do you think people are so gullible that they'll repeat anything? It's because they're asking others to think for them. Rise to the occasion, motherfucker. It's not that hard. You just gotta be worth your grit, worth your salt. Put in the fucking time. I'll try to get back on point. That's my sidebar because people are fucking stupid and it shouldn't be this way. You and I would be better off and things wouldn't be so far gone if what I just said was in fact true, which it obviously isn't based on what we're experiencing. I said the heliocentric physics-defying globe theory is one of 2 outlines in place to promote the Hegelian dialectic. I'm talking about conquer and divide, blue versus red, things that gullible people buy into instead of looking into. The original outline was the flat earth, pardon me, the pseudo-intellectual, ridiculous flat earth disc. That's usually how it's dressed up. Doesn't make any sense if you think about it. In other words, we're working with a globe and a disc, crudely speaking. And there's some other bastard versions of this, mind you, and I'm also well aware of the B-sides of this. The concave Earth, the hollow Earth, and a bunch of other nonsense. You don't see the honest outline out there because you are not supposed to fucking know shit, and people are apparently so fucking dumb they can't reason it out. What I can show you and what I would show you, and it would flip your fucking lid. It would flip your fucking lid. Where am I at? I said neither of which reflect reality, and it's true. And if people were thinking for themselves, they would have reasoned out you can't use either of these outlines as a tool because they do not reflect reality as a whole. And you don't hear that come up. Instead, you have people buying into the Hegelian dialectic. You have people whining about, well, I'm a globe earther. I'm a flat earther. It's a fucking football game, for fuck's sake. Back to point. Unfortunately, the presenter is shopping around propaganda. Most people are. The point is to think for yourself for the first time in your life, and that's meant to be insulting. In case you're scoffing and or crying yourself to sleep or searching for words to whine at me, AOL discs were free. Were they not? You get a free cell phone when you sign up for a plan. That's a mainstay. You and I are using the DARPA internet, make no mistake of that. And this social media platform, which is by all rights a social engineering platform, it's an extension of the MK Ultra sub-projects for fuck's sake, is free for a reason. And what reason would that be? For our benefit or to our detriment? Do you see people, increasing in intelligence now that social media is part of everybody's lives? Do you see people rising to the occasion and raising their vibrations, using emojis, lowering themselves, truncating their words, shopping around 7-second clips? No, really, do you? Think about it. Most people aren't. If you don't believe me, over 3 decades ago, a Davos panel, which is the public forum, just to think for you, the flip side of the Bilderberg Group, having to do with Moloch. And when Alex Jones was let into the fucking Bilderberg Group because he works for these bastards, because he's controlled opposition, most people are blissfully unaware of it. This openly stated, mind you, and I'm talking about the Davos panel, a public transcript, which openly stated in the transcript that you and I would be giving numerous forms of communication to echo. Technically, it's the official narrative. It's propaganda. These are the paradigms, etc., etc. They're also rabbit holes, which is why you were trained to chase rabbit holes. How many times have you seen Follow the White Rabbit or something along those lines in the programming? Two of the best examples that I can think of, one of which is The Matrix, of course. It's very subtle, but it's at the very beginning. And it's on a girl, which people would probably think is hot. 10 to 1, she's probably a Zionist, but maybe I'm wrong. Is she Israeli? I don't know her origin. But just the same, I wouldn't put it past them if that was the case. And I haven't looked that up. It might be the case. Let me know if you guys do that. It's pointless, but that's how our masters work. Another example I'm thinking of has to do with, if I recall correctly, it's in George R.R. Martin, the fellow who knocked out Game of Thrones. And this also factors into The Matrix. Think about The Matrix. Do they tell you there's a globe? Do they tell you any of that garbage? No, they don't. Not in the initial jazz that was spoon-fed to people back in 1999. And the 2 subsequent cash grabs that came out, Reloaded and whatever the fuck. Is it Revolutions? Either way, they're both bad. And they're both cash grabs because the Wachowski brothers aren't very talented. They're not. Some of the technology is neat, but most likely they were spoon-fed a great deal of this. and or they stole some of this, which is also something worth looking into if you want to spend time wasting your life. I've done that. What was I just thinking? So the Matrix jazz in the comics down the line, eventually it was likened to aliens and globe theory horseshit. Because that's the predominant garbage that our masters want you to believe in. Because it's so far from the mark, it's absolutely ridiculous. The flat earth is also nonsense, mind you. It really is, if you look into it. Our realm is relatively level. I don't disagree with that. But if I'm not mistaken, the system as a whole, across the board, is not. And that's probably going to throw some of you off. I'm not being snarky, by the way. But the globe garbage doesn't hold any water at all. And people would already understand this if, and this is me not thinking for you, there's something I could throw you guys, and it just stands to reason that people don't have a fucking clue what's going on because they are not thinking about anything at all. They're reacting, but they're not fucking thinking. They're not thinking at all. I told you, a globe and a disc. Can you use those as a fucking tool? Well, can you? Shocked this is still here. Alright, here, I'll play this and it'll probably be censored on YouTube.
All the doctor does is suppress your symptoms. Let's say you have high blood pressure, and the doctor says, well, I'll give you a pill. And so they give you a pill that poisons your kidneys and lowers your blood pressure. Or they give you a pill that poisons your heart, lowers your blood pressure, poisons your nervous system, lowers your blood pressure. And you say, success, my blood pressure's down. Well, no, you're being poisoned to death. And by the time you're on 3 drugs, there isn't anybody on the planet who knows what's going on in your body. Your body is now, well, no, you're being poisoned to death. And by the time you're on 3 drugs, there isn't anybody on the planet.
Of course it didn't stop it where I wanted it to. I know you guys heard it.
And by the time you're on 3 drugs, there isn't anybody on the planet who knows what's going on in your body. Your body is now in biochemical chaos. All the
You can't know everything, and I don't pretend to. I mean, Dr. Francis is focused on trying to help people as far as I'm aware. As far as I'm aware. The irony and the beauty of this is if you understand where we are, you could use this as a tool because the body is the temple and the temple is the body. If you're picking up what I'm putting down without giving you more. I am sitting on fucking answers. I've also put myself through a battery of fucking hell through poor decisions, mind you.
symptoms.
Let me see if I can shut this up for a second. So, high blood pressure and everything else under the sun. The beginning of the year, there are numerous moments. I've had a lot of near-death experiences, but at the beginning of the year, I had some that were far different than the ones I've experienced in the past. I've had some really wild car chases and vehicle-related incidents. I've had moments just getting the shit kicked out of me. I've had a bunch of wacky fucking moments. I got a big mouth, as you guys probably already know. And I will stand my ground most of the time, and I will also fucking say my piece, especially when it fucking matters. Because without doing so, we're not doing the right fucking thing. Beginning of the year, it was a culmination of me treating myself like shit, but part of it had to do with this high blood pressure crap. And nobody has been able to fucking figure it out. If I'm not mistaken, part of what I've been dealing with for years, mind you, to varying degrees, part of this is on par with... Let's do this. Will they do it? Oh, almost. Scurvy. I'm not kidding. I was experiencing horrible fucking chest pains. Horrible fucking chest pains. Everybody kept telling me, "Oh, dude, you're fine. You're probably okay." Superficial shit. trying to send me on my way. They also tried to give me drugs, none of which I've taken. But I've been upping my vitamin C, to say the very least, and that has helped part of this. I'm going through a bunch of other wacky stuff. The other bit of this has to do with being malnutrition, because I had to put myself through and I do feel like I had to do this. I had to put myself through a rigorous stay of fasting, just to cleanse the body, put it in ketosis for a fairly long period of time. Keep in mind, if you do this long term, you do run the risk of flipping the scales. By flipping the scales, I'm talking about going from alkaline to acidic. With that in mind, I also imagine that my body was already acidic. So going into a long-term period of ketosis, while already probably being fairly acidic, the reason I say that is because I started experiencing eczema out of the fucking blue after being 40 years old, which is very unlikely. Usually that is attributed to having too much sodium in your blood or in your body. Let me go out here because I think I have notes and I'll read these off. If this isn't censored, it might benefit somebody. Yeah, it's right here. And this is a quote you could look up. You'll probably find this too. It says 30 times more sodium during an eczema outbreak. And then this is on par with a staph infection. I used to work in an acute care facility, and staph infections were commonplace, is my point, when people have poor immune systems. And it was respiratory therapy and wound care, primarily speaking. So there was a lot of staph infections. So this word, it has to do with the staph infection, and I might not say it right. It's staph with an Ylococcus. Staphylococcus aureus, and the other word is Aureus. Thrive in salty environments. So in other words, the staph infection would thrive if you're taking in too much salt. So if you do have a staph infection, you might want to cut back on the salt. Also bear in mind, there are so many things you need to consider. Potassium and magnesium will balance your salt. So you have to be doing this as well. The other aspect is, this is the other quote. I think it's a quote. Sodium toxicity adversely affects the nasal mucosal immune system, which may lead to respiratory viral infection. I was kicking out so much mucus. At one point, I could not sleep. I was kicking out so much fucking mucus. It was not only disgusting, it was fucking surprising, and then it became fucking terrifying. I did cave in on that note because I was so fucking far gone. I finally took a steroid, I think is what I took. And it did suppress it enough to where I got back to a state of not quite moderation, but I started feeling a little bit better and I could finally fucking sleep and not feel like a piece of shit. What was the other thing I was going to rattle off to you guys? Oh, so being malnourished. Having fasted long term. I mean, in many ways, I've fasted for damn near most of the year to varying degrees. I've also broken some of this. I mean, there's been masturbatory, this, that, and the other thing. I recently went back and watched Running with Scissors, based on the book. And I sure as shit didn't like it as much as I thought. I kind of enjoyed it the first time. But I'm thinking about, there's a character in there and he has a masturbatorium. He has a special room where he jerks off, and it's pretty fucked up too, but it made me laugh at the time. And I think that's the only thing I think I liked about that entire movie, which I haven't read the book. Either way, back to point. So, not sleeping well, probably jerking off too much, drinking some booze here and there, probably more than I should have. These things don't help. And these things definitely did not help. So, on top of that, and being malnourished. I keep wanting to say it funny. I don't know why. What was the other bit? Oh, so my body didn't have enough vitamin K. I thought I was eating greens enough, but apparently I wasn't. So my blood was thin as fuck. These things all contribute to high blood pressure, which is my point. If that makes any sense. Yeah. If you're not getting enough vitamin K, but you are still getting magnesium and potassium to balance some of the salts, if your blood is, thin as snot, it's going to still pour through your body and cause you pains. I had pains that were very, very fucking similar. Honestly, it was the opposite side of the spectrum from fucking having a heart attack. My blood was pouring through my body so fucking fast it hurt. And this is just part of what I've been living through, but it's part of what I also made possible. I urge you guys not to go to such extremes. I am a Pisces. I am very fucking extreme. To say the very least, or so I've been told. I will digress on that note. If you sit through this, thanks for sitting through this. Hopefully you learned something, and thanks for hearing me out. And hopefully this is not fucking censored on the fucking DARPA internet. But the chances of that happening are very likely, especially on YouTube, based on experiences. Things that are said in here having to do with your health, which means it will probably be removed.